Hello and welcome to Stories That Shape Us, the series where we step behind the professional profiles and into the personal journeys. We'll be exploring moments, mindsets and milestones shaping the people driving service transformation across industries. I'm your host, Steph Ward, and today's episode is something special. We're joined by two guests that not only have rich individual journeys, but whose work continues to shape the space in really meaningful ways. So I'm joined today by Helen Nunn and Markus Müller. And Helen, if I could come to you first, if you could give a brief introduction of where you are today and maybe why this felt right to share your story with us.
Hi, I'm based out of the UK. I've been in the industry now for 35 years or more. I'm working for a service and solution company that's headquartered in the US, and I'm working as a service management and SIAM advisor. And I thought it'd be good to share my story today because I'm getting to the last quarter of my career. So it could be good to reflect back on what I've done to date.
Nice, I love that. And it's also, we're recording this at the end of the year, so it's a fitting time to have some reflection as well. And Markus, if I could come to you and welcome you, and if you could share a little bit about yourself as well, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm currently working as senior manager at EY Consulting here in Austria, working for technology consulting. I'm entering my 34th year in my career. I've spent a little over 20 years in the world of IT governance, service management, and in general digital transformation. And I've had the chance to work in many different roles during that time, from leading international teams at ABB Information Systems to consulting at Hewlett-Packard, and later as an independent advisor. So over the years, I discovered what motivates me is not so much the different fields and the different tools and how they function. I rather have fun helping organizations connecting business strategy to the right technologies, making complex environments a little simpler, the human way for people to collaborate. And today, much of my work is about global ServiceNow rollouts, the governance questions that come with such large scale change. And I'm, of course, also involved, like you, Helen, like you, Steph, in the SIAM community, contributed to the professional body of knowledge, and recently authored the SIAM Trust Compendium. So beyond all that, I'd simply describe myself as someone who brings enthusiasm, long-term thinking, and also important persistence to every project.
Definitely, and we are so grateful to have you both in the community and as champions as well. But like we do with all these sessions, I want to rewind back to the early days of where it all began for both of you. Always curious about first steps. And Helen, I'd love to know what first drew you into the industry, and as the theme tends to go, where you perhaps fell from.
So my background is psychology. So I did psychology at A-level at college and decided I wanted to pursue it further. So I did it at degree level, and I wanted to go further. So after I left, I finished a research paper that was published in a scientific journal. I'd done the usual milk rounds at university and nothing really appealed. So I decided I couldn't afford to take it further, unfortunately. So it was really deciding what I should be doing next. So like a lot of people that you've interviewed, Steph, I fell into IT. So I was at a supermarket one day when I'd gone back home, and there was a bus in the car park that was offering temp jobs. And I decided to go and have a chat, and they offered me a temporary role in IT in a council. And I thought I'd take it just to work out what I was going to do next. And I ended up staying for 10 years. So my lucky break was really one of the sliding door moments, and I'll talk about those a bit more in further detail later. But the assistant to the head of IT was off sick, so I was asked to go and fill in for her at one of the big council meetings.
Wow.
And I was a bit naive. I thought I could talk in these council meetings, not just like take the notes. And I said a few things maybe I shouldn't have said, but afterwards, the head of IT, Tony Glue, took me to one side and said, "That was really good. What are you doing at the moment? Or what would you like to do next?"
Wow.
And he offered me an architect role, which was my big break, really. But I put a lot of effort in because I was the only female in that section, and I felt I really needed to prove myself. He'd given me the chance. So I put my heart and soul into it and put a huge amount of extra hours in learning the products and learning the different technologies. And that led me on to be able to then get involved in procurement and sourcing. So I did the RFPs for field services and for sourcing within the council for all the departments as well, including the schools. So I ended up getting involved in SIAM back then without really knowing it, in terms of like collaborating between the different departments and making sure that they'd got end-to-end service. So that's how
Fantastic.
I ended up in IT.
I love that. And you are right, it does follow the themes, as I said with previous guests about falling into it, very much with your own flavour. And I too, very interested in psychology, also studied it. Amazing that it got published. And I also think it's relevant in everything we do anyway. So it's definitely not wasted either. And I also love when someone takes a chance on you, even when it's not meant to happen, you're not meant to speak up, but you obviously did for a reason. And
Yeah,
that's amazing. So
yeah.
well done.
Thank you.
And Markus, coming on to you then, let's hear your version. How did you fall into IT, or did you carve your way into it?
Yeah, after school, I had this typical bottom-up career. First being a computer administrator for networks, then database administrator, then an SAP expert, and so on. But actually, if I look back at what really first pulled me into technology, it wasn't really technology at all. It was music. So in the
Love
late
that.
80s, I spent countless hours experimenting early with computers, electronic music, trying to compose pop music, as we called it at that time. So sophisticated wasn't really easily available. It was very expensive beginning of the 90s. And so you had to be creative, curious, program your things, make things work. And at the same time, I had a very classical education. So I played the church organ for many years. One of the people who shaped me most during that period was actually my organ teacher. So he taught me something that probably influenced my entire career, the combination of precision, attention to detail, and the human touch. So I think that is, that reaches directly into your soul, music. And I became fascinated by the idea that in one way or the other, technology could probably do the same. You could use the systems, the logic, but in a very creative way, create something that resonates with others. So, probably that was very early when my career theme, as you could call it, technology and emotion, suddenly connected for me. And anything that came later probably connects to this. Later, I did architecture and service management, all of it. But it started actually with music.
I love that. And I think it's something you wouldn't typically expect. Like, I suppose technology is music, and especially when you say about the emotional and like human side of it and how it connects people. I really like that. And I think you still play now, right? Is that correct?
Definitely. I play now. I got my little church organ at home. And, when you look at the scores, how composers, the structure, how they write down the scores, you look at, for example, process documentation, and people in different cultures document process differently. But, it does matter how these documentations look. It does matter how detailed they are and whatnot. So, yeah, I still today make my connections to the music.
I love that. And so both
Yeah.
very different entries into IT, but your own way of doing it. And I love that. I think that's really nice to hear. And I suppose moving on from there then, so what sort of moments or milestones that we talk about have really shaped the way that you kind of or lead or work today or throughout that time after that? Helen, if I could come to you first again.
So I think the things that have shaped my career are the ones that haven't been planned. So they're the ones that, like I mentioned, those sliding door moments when you decide you're either going one way or another. And by taking that particular route, you end up at a certain destination. And hopefully for me, most of those have been positive. So in COVID, for example, I got involved with working for Australia because of the situation in Europe. There wasn't too much work, so I got the chance to work for them in terms of pre-sales. And luckily for me, those pre-sales came into fruition, and I ended up implementing some service management work and some SIAM work in APAC. The downside of that initially was that I had to work nights.
Oh.
Yeah, which in the middle of summer when everybody else is going out to have a barbecue or whatever, I was putting my pajamas and going to bed at 5 in the evening when it was really hot and sunny. So, but then, COVID took hold and everybody had to shield, etc. So
Yeah.
at that point, it didn't have that much of an impact. So I got involved with APAC where I really learnt a lot. There were some really good guys that I worked with that had got that rare blend of skills that you need for SIAM. So those strong service management skills, good people skills, and also technology knowledge as well that really helped. So I learned an awful lot, and at the same time I got a chance to do some quite different SIAM work. I got involved in OCM, as well as other areas like defining governance frameworks, that working with other third parties to do that because the customer had got independent advisors, so understanding their perspective on things as well. So that was a really good opportunity. And my husband really got ill at that time as well, to the point he had to get rushed into hospital. So working nights was a saving grace for me as well, because I used to go and visit him during the day and then be able to go back to work at night.
Gosh,
So,
when did you sleep, Helen?
sorry?
When did you sleep?
I went to bed as soon as I got back from the hospital, went to bed, got up at 1 in the morning, did a full day's work, did his washing, went back to the hospital.
Bless you.
Yeah, but
Time.
that worked for me because at the
Yeah.
time, otherwise I would have had to take a lot of time off work,
Yeah.
because he had a life-threatening, illness that had a really tiny chance of survival, and we were really lucky we caught it in time. So for me, taking that opportunity when I didn't even know what was going to happen was a really, career-defining moment for me.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
It was meant to be, yeah, absolutely. And another one was I spent 11 years in government, and I was adamant that I didn't want to take another government role, but I did. I went and worked as an SDM in government and took 3 government accounts. So that led me to be, outside of government, but work with government and use my knowledge. And that led me to be able to get into other areas. So it opened the doors to consultancy for me,
Yeah.
which I really enjoy. I really like working with people, helping them with their solutions, like Markus has mentioned when we've had chats previously, and sharing my knowledge and moving them forward. So, and I've been in and out of consultancy for 20 odd years. I've been back to operations sometimes as well, sometimes through choice, sometimes not through choice. But that keeps it all real, and it keeps your skills in check as well. I think, going back and having to do those roles helps you when you're doing the consultancy. So getting everything in perspective and understanding what people do on a day-to-day basis. So
I think it's interesting, like you say as well, sometimes you think they're not the right decision, but how do we ever know that they're going to be perfect? We're never going to have that full confidence, but they end up being right for different reasons, like you say, that everything that happened with your husband or the work that came thereafter that. So I like that sliding doors moments and stuff. It's good. And Markus, what about you? How what shaping moments and milestones have you had then throughout your career?
Thinking about these moments that were really defining, that related to becoming a SIAM enthusiast or evangelist or consultant, as you want to name it. Probably what comes to mind is 2011. I was working in a Hewlett-Packard software, a team called International Expertise Team. So I left my country responsibilities, went into this global team and had these more or less 1 year long transformation programs. I did one in Paris, one in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, several more places. So in the middle of delivering a very interesting consulting project at the banking consortium in Luxembourg, my boss, Andreas Voigt, he approached me and he asked, would you like to develop a new solution portfolio for Hewlett-Packard? It's called SIAM. So, yeah, actually, whatever SIAM means, it doesn't sounds like a type of cat or whatever. I had no clue what it is. But I was excited because it was an opportunity, it sounded like international visibility, responsibility, the opportunity to build something new from the ground up. And at a company like HP, it resonated, so I started, I switched basically from field consulting into building a global practice.
Wow.
And that was a completely new discipline. Of course, all the service management background helped me. So it connected somehow everything that I loved. The architecture part, the governance that I was seeing literally each project on the ground, how people struggle, how organizations had to overcome typical patterns of resistance and all the service management practices. So all this I could combine, I was often a little bit harsh with the people in the practices as they were not in the field at the front lines. They were, back at their consulting laboratory creating nice templates, but that wasn't always a fit. So I complained a lot. Obviously, they made me the one that should do it better, but it allowed me to evolve into this true strategic product management for SIAM. And then there's probably another defining moment. After Hewlett-Packard, I went to ABB. That was probably the second milestone. Years later, I joined as a group vice president, the global ABB information systems, building up that group. And there was a high need of unifying the different teams. Of course, it wasn't something a single person could do. It was teamwork of several leaders. So here you see my team. Yeah, quite some guys. I learned a lot about recruiting in different time zones. And we put together a really good team. They all now made great careers in the meantime. High-ranking leaders across the organization nowadays.
Wow.
And yeah, it was for me a kind of a breakthrough also in terms of leadership, how to really go and take accountability, not only consult, but see how the other side looks like, how it is, what weight is on your shoulders when you're really accountable. So yeah, for me, we had success. It's obviously always a bumpy road. The ones that claim transformations are easy and nice and they're not linear, they are bumpy.
Are they lying?
That's right. Yeah, we had to rethink the entire governance model, and we had so much struggles in terms of how to do this in a human way, how to reshuffle and redesign things. So it was very demanding for me and my team. At times, I had to also break down things that were created, unlearn things. And for me, my team, sometimes some people gave me feedback. They said they almost felt I abandoned them because I moved after this 2-year transformation in a temporary organization. I left my leadership position in the line organization. So it felt to the team I abandoned them. Only years later, they told me retrospectively, they told me not because, they understood there is a bigger journey, not only our team. It had to be reshaped to support something bigger. And it was built in the same spirit that, we would later define how we approach SIAM. So it helped me learning a few things, how to stay calm in chaos.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Also about cultures, respecting the local cultures, listening before acting, and in general, how to build trust under pressure.
And was that where the trust element came from for you? Obviously, it's a huge
definitely
part
came
of
from,
things that you do.
yeah. The trust compendium that we had now put into writing, certainly a lot of experience from these specific moments and transformations went into this intense transformation and the leap into this global SIAM architecture that shaped how I lead, how I think, how I collaborate today.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I think obviously you've both been in the industry for decades, and it's hard to kind of cover everything that you've done in a conversation like this, but you will have seen a lot of things change and evolve throughout that time. And I guess I'd kind of like to, for the audience and for yourselves really, just to generate a bit of a conversation between you of how you've seen that and the things maybe you've seen, and if it resonates with the other. I don't know if anyone wants to start that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that hasn't changed is the need for trust. I'm turning it on its head, Steph.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so that really resonated with me because I've had a few assignments where I've been in and people really haven't trusted me because they're frightened of change. Yeah, so it's building that trust, like Markus has said in his compendium, and earning it. Yeah, you can't just go in there and expect everybody to be happy that you're there.
yeah.
And that brings me on to one of the things I think has changed and is at the forefront at the moment in terms of OCM. So people are growing and changing all of the time, and I think OCM is really key now. In terms of, especially around AI, yeah, people know that their jobs potentially are going to change, but what is going to change and how it affects them on a day-to-day basis. So I think OCM is really key around that and understand what's coming next for them. I think Markus and I have had quite a few chats around OCM
Yeah,
and have
I
found
think
cultural resistance, haven't we, in terms of that being one of the bigger challenges in some of these things that are changing quite rapidly.
And it's something we've seen in the global SIAM surveys with OCM as well. And obviously we've got the compendium that in the community now that's come out that will hopefully help support that. But I think it's a challenge across many industries, not even just ours as well.
And it's doing the walk with them and proving, you can do it as much as them. And as part of some of my assignments, I've had to coach people on major incident management and getting the right skills, and knowledge there to be able to contribute, not necessarily as a major incident manager, but maybe as a service delivery manager or a technical team. So I've, rolled my sleeves up and got involved to build that trust and to build that comfort factor with them that I do know what I'm talking about. And I think that that's key. And recognizing the skills, that they've got already. So SIAM skills are embedded in a lot of roles, and people, I think, sometimes gloss over that. So things like service management, solution design, architecture, etc. They've all got elements in there, and it's like building on those skills, and that's why I've got involved in Astrid. So in terms of developing, the skills for SIAM as part of the ITSM framework. So it's looking at those job descriptions and how they can develop, and knowing what you've got in-house, really, and understanding what is really needed for those larger SIAM rollouts, because sometimes you've got to accept that you haven't got the skills in-house, that you are going to have to bring them in, and it's getting that balance, really. It's knowing what you really need, and hopefully Astrid will help with that in terms of assessing those skills and understanding what personal journeys are needed to upskill them to be able to do SIAM correctly.
Yeah, it's very valuable, and very appreciative of the work that yourself and Barry Corliss have done on that, obviously alongside XIN support, but and looking forward to that launching shortly. Markus, you go.
I mean, you wanted this to be a dialogue, right?
Sorry,
I didn't want to interrupt.
No, sorry, Markus.
There are so many points I can connect to, but one of the things that really are interesting, like you said, trust, for example, or the things you mentioned about OCM, the organization change management, they are actually truly fundamental. And fundamental, in my experience, means they remain. They're not trends that come and go, but they are, now with AI, we have these people talk about how the frontier between technology and human interaction would move and so on. But these things remain, in my opinion. It's an interesting observation that, the methods, they change, they come and go, like the project management methods, the latest and greatest in service management or architecture, they all come and go. But we're talking about such fundamentals like trust, or simply the passion or curiosity to decompose complexity, solve problems in a way that they can, organization have long-term benefit from it. So I think that's important, in my opinion. And not sure, Helen, what do you think about this AI?
It was going to come up, wasn't it, guys?
It's going to come up. From a SIAM point of view, I've seen the teams I'm working with at the moment embed it in an organic way, and spotting the opportunities to introduce it. I don't think I personally haven't seen at the moment a whole big project to implement it and turn SIAM solution on its head. It's spotting where things can be taken out the day-to-day and AI can replace them, like automating informational changes from providers so they go straight into CAB, for example. It's those sort of things that I'm spotting. But I would say, hand on heart, I am not an expert in this area. I'm bumping against it at the moment. What about you, Markus? Is that something you're getting involved in your assignments or not?
I actually use it just as a tool for the consulting, to speed up things, to make sure that we're not wasting time in things that an AI could do. So I try to use it, but I just mention it because it's also one of those things where I think the human side, like experience, intuition, empathy, all these becomes probably now even more important than before. In the age of AI, I think we as humans need to also get professional in these emotional layers of the change and how to guide stakeholders through change. All of it is something I totally agree. The frontier where technology and humanity meet, this is negotiable and it's changing, but there are certain things that I believe are very human and remain so.
That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, Steph, you carry on.
No. I was just going to say it's good. I think we need that to be the case, and obviously using it where it's beneficial. But I too am absolutely not an expert, and far less than either of you. So, but yeah, I guess we've mentioned a few things about the compendiums that you've both been involved in, various compendiums, and obviously you have your day-to-day jobs, but you are both heavily involved in community activities and working groups. But what is driving you both today? What on top of that, or what is part of that that's really motivating you moving forward? Markus, if I come to you first.
Sure. What drives me today is actually the constant evolution of the industry, the opportunity to bring together this human-centric transformation that we talked about in the governance and the architectures in a way that it really generally helps the organization. And as I said, I'm right now heavily involved in these global ServiceNow rollouts and the broader governance and operating model questions that come with these initiatives. And these topics are incredibly dynamic. That's the beauty in my professional life. Nothing is repeating. There's constant learning, especially so many clients are facing, they probably face similar challenges around resistance, rapid organizational adoption of new practice or whatnot. But yeah, for example, if you're trying to squeeze a half-baked, sold as all you need platform into a unique organization with unique culture and history, it's always a challenge. And the challenge is never the same. So for me, it's something I'm passionate about today. And, capture practical knowledge, prepare it for customers in a sustainable way. I'm fascinated by the idea to just create these models that preserve real expertise, not just the theory, not just the data, although data is so super important today. But, for me, it's very interesting. Having worked on both sides of the fence as a senior consultant, as a practitioner, I'm fascinated by how we can preserve this real expertise so both can collaborate more effectively.
I think that's so important as well, like preserving that and also continuing to build and evolve with it as well, because like people coming in and having everything given to them, if there's a faster way of doing it and you don't have to learn, obviously it speeds things up, but then once the aging workforce retires and things like that, you lose so much. Like it's a scary thought, and it's being able to prepare for that as well, isn't it? So I'm glad we've got someone like you who's interested and invested in it, Markus.
Thank you very much.
No,
And like
absolutely.
you, Helen, I mean, it's about community. It's also about, what drives us outside of client work. It's being involved in the evolution of this body of knowledge. It's absolutely great. And I think this is what remains when you look back. The bits and bytes disappear. The latest and greatest versions of whatever tool disappear. But that remains, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely, it does, yeah. And it's keeping that tacit knowledge alive, like you say, Steph, and passing that knowledge on. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment in a number of my assignments that I've got, is trying to mentor people and bring them on in terms of their SIAM journey and in terms of their skills as well. So I've got a number of projects there where I've done some audit of some of the SIAM accounts and trying to mature them, but also introduce, new elements to those accounts, like, for example, provider surveys, starting to get into experience management, etc. as well. I suppose it's balancing, some of those, initiatives with what they've got in the contracts. It's kind of a fine balance, really, to try and mature those contracts, but not over deliver so much that you're impacting the bottom line, which you've also got to be cognizant of as well. So, but outside of that, like Markus said, we've been involved in the compendiums, community champions. I've mentioned Astrid, but also I'm lucky enough now to get on the BSI committee for service management and represent SIAM. So I'm going to be starting to do that next year as well, which is quite exciting. And I've just finished updating the SIAM Foundation exams. So Markus Seller back in 2017 got me involved with SIAM by taking the first foundation pilot exam. So big thank you to Markus for that, a different Markus. And I was lucky enough to feedback on the exam and then get involved in developing the exam questions for SIAM and for Agile. So I've been doing that ever since. So that's one of the things I'm quite excited about, to see how SIAM exams evolve now that we've, extended out our body of knowledge to the compendiums, etc. as well. So it'd be good to see how that evolves over the next year, 24 months or so. So
definitely. No, it's great to have you involved, and I know you mentioned a lot about mentoring and mentorship and stuff like that, and I do think it's invaluable, for both mentors and mentees at any stage of your career. And I think most people think it's an early starter thing, and actually they lose sight of it and making the most of it as they progress as well. So I love that, and also grateful to have you involved in the exams and everything involved in the community and the work that you've both done for the compendiums as well. But coming back to that mentor thing, I suppose, in terms of what we see a lot of, and obviously coming back to the very beginning where you talk about falling into IT and things like that, we obviously want the younger generation to recognise what a great career this is. You guys wouldn't have stayed in it as long as you have. Appreciate there's a lot of variety in there as well, but if it wasn't worthwhile, and maybe it's something we didn't know enough about when we were younger, or I just wondered if there's any wisdom and advice that you could pass on to that generation, or you'd have passed on to your younger self. Markus, if you want to go first.
Yeah, the younger self I like. What is it that I would talk to myself like 30 years ago or 20? I would say to myself, be a little bit more patient when it comes to complexity. For example, these large-scale transformation, they take time, and not every decision makes immediately sense. Either you or the teams need to cope with a lot of things before value, as we call it, unfolds, really. So the impact of your work sometimes becomes visible much later. Yeah, that's something I would have said to myself. If you, getting a bit more calmness, confidence into what we do. Something I wish I would have understood as a practitioner earlier is also, don't measure your own value by how much you know as pure knowledge, because knowledge is ubiquitous now with AI. Measure it more how deeply you listen. In the early stage of my career, I think it's natural. You're trying to master the tools, the frameworks, the methods, but over time you realize that the real breakthroughs happen when you're able to connect with people, understand their motivations, and emotionally dive into that change they go through, as we all go through change, and we know how hard it is. So, and then last but not least, probably one more thing is, dear Markus, 20 years ago, you don't have to do things alone. Community and membership have played such a huge role in my journey. So join a community, look for mentors, and collaboration. It's not a nice to have, it's foundation for growth in your field.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree, Markus, with both points. So on the first one, I think I learned the hard way that, you've got to be patient. When I was an SDM, sometimes I maybe got given some information and it wasn't the full picture. So to my younger self, like, take a step back, look at all of the information you've got available to you before you leap in and come up with a solution to address an issue that's been escalated to you, and talk to others and get their different perspectives on that issue, because your perspective might not be the right one or not the only one. So that's a piece of advice I'd give. Another is grow your network, and value your network, because they'll support you, especially in tough times. I mean, I got made redundant, like Markus has, and my network helped me get another role quite quickly, which I'll always be grateful for. And they're there to give you advice and guidance and keep you honest. And like I say, that network really helped me. And it's having those go-to people and knowing where to get the advice. So when I worked at Capgemini, I worked with Mark Craven, and he was excellent at, reading the room. And if you'd got a tricky email or a tricky message, you'd go to him and he'd say, well, what about this? This is a better way to deliver it. I mean, he spent years in industry and in rail-related industry. So he, worked at different levels. So he was really good at communication. So he was my go-to person. And I really miss him now, because sometimes I think, well, if Mark was here, what would Mark say around this? Have I got that delivery right or not? Am I going to upset somebody? So it's having those people, there's different people for different situations you can go to get advice. And it's being willing to be mentored now. So David Barrow's mentoring me, because I'm a real dinosaur on social media. I really don't do Facebook, but he's really encouraging me at the moment on LinkedIn and giving me that advice and guidance, because he's excellent on that. So you'll see more of me on LinkedIn next year, thanks to David.
I'm here for it. I love what I've been seeing, and I think he would probably say as well, it's both of you, it's a lot of your work. He's just showing you how to get it out there.
Absolutely, yeah. He keeps saying that. He keeps saying, you're not selling yourself. You're not saying what you're actually working on at the moment. But he's, guiding me on the forum of how to do that in a positive way.
Yeah. No, it's good, and I think it's so powerful, the things that you've both said, and about the people and the network, and for so many different reasons. And it's not always about the quantity, it's the quality of those as well. Like, yeah, there may be people who you don't speak to all the time, and that could develop something later on, but also nurturing those relationships that you do have, and keeping those connections, I think, are also very valuable as well. Helen, I wanted to talk about the other thing, because you mentor, is it like the younger generation for gardening?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So, in COVID, I started to do gardening. So quite a lot of my family are farmers and into agriculture, etc. So, and my granddad, when he retired, spent an awful lot of time trying to encourage me to get into gardening, but I really only got into it in COVID. So I've started encouraging my niece Freya and some of my friends, younger family and granddaughters and grandsons, to get into gardening, and it's really quite sweet. Like, Freya's really proud of her tomatoes she's grown, and she sends me little pictures to say, oh, I've just done a salad for my big brother, here you go. So it's really cute that they're really proud of what they've achieved, and they understand, where some of our food comes from, which is really important. And I'm still learning in this area as well. You showed there that Freya's garlic farm. So we went to the garlic farm on the Isle of Wight early this year, and I naively thought, if you plant a bulb of garlic, it'll have little babies. Little did I know that, because we bought loads of bulbs, And little did I know you have to split them out into cloves. So we've got a full
Oh,
raised bed at the bottom of our garden full of garlic. So Steph, Marcus, you'll be getting garlic next year from me. We've got
I love
so
that.
much of it. But yeah, so Freya and Laurie and a few of the others are now got garlic farms as well.
I
I
love it.
think this,
It's in each kitchen across the globe. No matter where
Yeah,
you have garlic,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a nice picture for what we do in SIAM, isn't it?
yeah.
Being global, connecting, a lot
Connecting,
of
yeah, and
empathy.
collaborating. Yeah,
Gardening itself is a great picture for what we do in SIAM.
and it very much ties into what you said about having patience, because things don't grow overnight, do they? You have to have patience, and you have to nurture it like you do the relationships and things like that. So a very good theme to everything that we've spoken about today, I think. Especially for the generations where we talk about AI and instant gratification. Coming back to the musical themes that you talked about, Marcus, you can't learn to play an instrument overnight, and I think keeping on continuing doing these things in today's society is really beneficial for all generations. And hopefully it doesn't get lost or forgotten. Okay, so we'll come to our closing reflections then. So any beliefs, values or mindsets, anything we've not covered, and the things that will continue to shape who you are today and tomorrow.
So from my point of view, I think we've covered a lot of it already, Steph. So it's using that tacit knowledge and sharing that. And it's still getting involved in the SIAM journey for me and helping grow and develop it. And also opening myself up still to being mentored and growing my career still, even though I'm in the last quarter of it. So yeah, there's a lot to learn still from the rest of the community champions and the community as well.
I love that. We're grateful to have you. And
Thank
because we
you.
learn from you as well.
Yeah, for me, it's like staying curious, in our stage of our career, it's so important to stay curious. I had great mentors, for example, Richard Amster. It's someone who has mentored me for quite a while and who is he's leading, he's part of a program in Harvard, US, the MIT. It's called Sandbox, and it's helping students when they want to grow their own business, helping them how to really get into the industry and how a business canvas would look like, And Richard is now about 80 years old. He's one of the most curious and most energetic people that I know. So this curiosity, this empathy, and the integrity, it's timeless. And that's probably the last thing I just wanted to mention. A big thank you to Richard for helping me to build trust, lead with authenticity, and just make the right decisions. So
thank you both so much. And just as a final, I can't believe we've not seen Tilly today, Helen.
No, she's in another room. She's safely put away for now. So I adopted her earlier this year. We've only had her 6 weeks. So she's a rescue. She was in a road traffic accident, bless her, and she had a broken leg. So we've adopted her. She can walk again now, and she's getting confident. So hopefully in the new year we'll be able to let her out so she can explore. She's desperate, but because she had a broken leg, she's not big enough yet. So
well, I love this, and also ties into the themes of what we learn from our hobbies and things outside of work. I think looking after pets, especially rescues, it's very, very admirable, Helen. It's been great to talk to you both today, as it always is. But I love that we're going to be able to share this conversation, or we are sharing this conversation as you are watching it from the audience. But yeah, thank you very much. If you would like to reach out to Helen or Markus, they are in the Scope of Time community on LinkedIn, as they've mentioned. They'd be happy to continue these conversations with you, share advice and wisdom. But to our audience, thank you for joining us. If you've got a story you'd like to share, please get in touch. And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Markus.
Thank you, Steph.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.